Hey, welcome everybody to episode 35 of Trend Talks BizSec. I'm your host, Jon Clay, VP of Threat Intelligence at Trend Micro, and joining me again today is Greg Young, VP of Cybersecurity at Trend Micro. And today we're going to talk all about ransomware and the trends we're seeing in ransomware. Greg, what's your opening statement on ransomware?
I'm challenging us to say only new things and that it'll be nothing that you've heard elsewhere. So we will not be recycling old ransomware tropes. So we're going to focus on the what's different, what you haven't heard elsewhere today.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on it, because obviously ransomware has been around for years and years and years, and it continues to be a profitable business for the adversaries out there. We were looking at a recent report from Chainalysis. They're an organization that tracks cyber payments, crypto payments. And in their report, it was kind of interesting that what they saw was 2024 is probably going to be the highest grossing ever year yet for ransomware payments. Now, they also caveat that the number of attacks seem to be going down, but the payments are going up. In fact, they went from in 2023, the average was 200,000 in payment, and in first half of 24, it's 1.5 million is the average ransom payment. So obviously, this is a big business, continues to be a big business for these adversary groups, even though the numbers are down. So,
what do you think about the numbers being down is a meaningful one, because it means they're being more focused. So they're just picking their targets better. So there's a lot of security organizations who get hung up on the wrong metrics, and they say, oh my gosh, ransomware's down, we're going to have to defocus that. No, it's just they're being much more effective, and they don't have to just spray and pray.
Yeah, I mean, so, why do you attribute that ransomware continues to be a good business for these adversaries? I mean, obviously, that, like you said, they're going to do more targeting of specific organizations in the world. They're going to increase their ransom payments from these organizations. So, I mean, why is this thing still a good business? You'd think it would have died out by now.
It's an economy. It's working, and I think it's working so well that's even spawned this part of the economy, which is the affiliate aspect of it as well.
Yeah, and that's certainly something that, if the audience doesn't understand a little bit, ransomware as a service is huge in the underground communities right now. And so what you have there is you have a ransomware gang who provides the service to what they call affiliates. Affiliates pay them a percentage of the ransom in order to access their tools, their capabilities, all of that information. So the actual attacks get done by the affiliates, but the ransomware groups behind the attack, they're the ones that really law enforcement needs to take out, because they're the ones who, have, hundreds of affiliates that work with them and target these organizations. So it's definitely a big business. Now, Greg, one thing that was interesting in the first half, we saw a couple of arrests by law enforcement. Lockbit, they took out. AlphaV, Black Cat, they took out. So there was some disruption in these groups, but obviously, looking at the Chainalysis data, it didn't really affect the revenue of ransomware gangs.
Yeah, going after the supply side doesn't work. It's the demand, and the demand is there. As long as there's organizations who are vulnerable, there's going to be money being made off of it. So right now, there's no shortage of bad guys. So they're just going to fill in the blank files that are created right now, I believe. So it does pressure them to change their behavior a bit, but it's not making them go away. That's clear.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we've seen a shift in is this big game hunting style, where they're doing a huge amount of open source intelligence gathering about the potential victims these days. So one of the values that these ransomware gangs bring to the affiliates is they can actually recommend the victims to the affiliates and who they go after. And they have all types of information about them. They'll know what's their yearly revenue, because a lot of times the ransom is going to be predicated upon the amount of revenue that the organization has. So it'll be a percentage of that. They'll also look, do they have cyber insurance? And if they have cyber insurance, we may talk about that a little bit later here, but do they have cyber insurance that could potentially pay the ransom? and not affect the bottom line, so to speak. So there's a lot of this intelligence gathering, even all prior to the attack actually happening. So as a CISO, I have to look at my company a little bit differently now than I used to have in the past, because I'm going to be a target, and I got to look at, why am I going to be a target? Do I have a lot of revenue, which means they want to target me for a high ransom? Have I been attacked in the past? Right? Do I have that history that I have paid in the past? That puts another target on you. All of these things have to be thought about as a CISO these days.
I would also, as a CISO, have in my back pocket an expected number that we'd be expected to pay. So if I ever get asked by the board, or have a discussion with them about ransomware or with management, and this topic comes up, I can tell them maybe not what they're going to have to pay if it happens, but what the kind of scope is. If it happens and you do expect to pay, it's not going to be $100,000 or $2,500 like a consumer case. This is going to be, X million, and that's going to be the number they're going to ask for.
Yeah, I mean, well, just recently we saw the largest ransom paid. It was $75 million to the actor group that an organization paid to get the decryption keys back. That's huge money, just in one transaction. I mean, that, right there, that basically tells all the other ransomware gangs and the affiliates, hey, this is open season, right?
Right. And that's the ones we know about, right? And so, we talked before about legislation coming in to ban ransomware payments. And it's good in theory, but this comes down to there's a French expression called sauve qui peut, which means, save yourself. And when you're in that situation, nobody's going to help you. So organizations do have to make these tough decisions. So ideally, you don't pay, but I think that some organizations do get caught and they don't have backups and they're stuck. They don't have a plan. And this is what they're faced with.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the other trends that we're seeing right now is the access brokers. These are groups that actually, they specialize in gaining access to a network. And these groups are going in and targeting many, many different organizations. And their whole intent is to gain access, gain a foothold into the network, because then they sell that access to other groups. It could be a data exfil group, or it could be even a ransomware gang group or an affiliate of that ransomware gang. And they will get a cut of the amount of money as well, as well as a payment for giving access. But these groups are very specialized. And Greg, we've talked in the past. One of the first things they're going to look at is your open internet-facing assets, and they're going to look at those. They're going to see what applications are running on those. They're going to come up with some kind of a number of different exploits that they can use to gain access. Once they gain access, they pivot a little bit, but then they end up selling the access to these other groups. And that makes it difficult, I think, for these organizations, because now you could have multiple groups inside your network.
Right. And they're not going to necessarily be the ones that ransom you. It's going to be another vector. So it's like that we have this new ISO model, except for ransomware now, with these new layers being put in. It's not just the group that creates the ransomware attacks you. You've got the ransomware as a service. Now you have these access brokers, and sometimes a fourth layer, which is other groups who may be involved in the payments.
Yeah, and I mean, it's crazy because all of them may have a different footprint. They may have different. They use different tools inside the organization, so it really makes it difficult to identify what's going on inside the organization. Obviously, ultimately, you want to kick out the access brokers, because one of their stages is a maintenance stage. Well, they'll wipe out the tracks of everybody who's been in there, but then continue to have a foothold in there through backdoors, and then wait a few months or a year or whatever, and then sell access back into that network again to another group. So that in and of itself is a challenge for organizations.
Yeah, I just had a conversation this week with somebody in the in the intelligence world, and they made the comment that if country X gets in your network, you're not getting them out. It's almost like you have to, like when we throw away laptops when we travel, it's almost to that degree that once these footholds are there, it's not as simple as it used to be to recover.
Well, and the fact that these companies have huge attack surfaces now, right? It's not just your PCs, it's your servers, it's your IoT devices, it's your IIoT devices, it's all of these different things. It's your accounts, it's your applications, your operating system, all of that is part of the attack surface nowadays and can be exploited by these different groups that are inside the network.
Yeah, and this is exactly why we're talking so much about attack surface management now, because it's, we focus so much on the bad guys, we learn about them, but the problem now is ourselves. We have these complex environments, and we have to shine the light on it, light on ourselves to find out what's going on. So that's half the problem.
Yeah, and I think that shift, you're starting to see it quite a bit now. I mean, the old model of best of breed, and you have, this company here, this product here. Most businesses, large businesses have, 40 or plus security tools they're having to manage and maintain inside their networks. That's making it very difficult to deal with the problem, which is gaining visibility into the actors' TTPs inside the network and what they're doing and where they're going inside my network. So the more you can kind of build a platform that has integration, consolidation, collaboration across all of the different tools, it gives you a better visibility of what's going on, I think, than we've ever had in the past.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. The bad guys know it. The bad guys aren't all fragmented. They know what's going on in your network, so we'd better learn what's going on in our own. Right.
And they're using a lot of the same tools, the living off the land tools that you're using inside your network. So that also makes it difficult to do it. We talked a little bit about cyber insurance, Greg, and maybe banning ransoms through regulations, but I'd like to pivot a little bit on that in terms of the cyber insurance side. I mean, obviously, one of the good benefits that's coming out of this is that the insurance companies are starting to require their customers have more and better cybersecurity strategies and applications put into the organization. But is that going to be enough?
Yeah, and a lot of the insurance is paper-based right now. In terms of how they learn how prepared you are. With the great advances in attack surface, I really wish that the insurance industry would link more with those tools. So you can say, hey, here's what we know about ourselves. This is our picture. And the insurance company can make two decisions from that. One is, yes, that's the state of your environment. We can kind of grade you as an A, B, or C, or, hey, you don't know much about yourself, or you do, just what percentage of your attack surface that is very helpful to us as an insurer. So I'd like to see more of that. But in the meanwhile, yeah, it's evolving, but the rates are expensive right now.
Yeah. And I think the policies are going up a little bit more, but in any case, so let's talk a little bit about at the end here about what should a CISO kind of do? What do you think the action plan is towards the end of the year, getting ready for 2025? What should they be doing now to ensure that in 2025, maybe they've been able to minimize their risk of these ransomware groups getting in?
I think three things: visibility. But how you get that is, attack surface. You get it by making sure your stuff talks to each other. That trying to manually or using your people to be the human API between stuff is not viable anymore. So making sure your stuff talks to each other. And last is have a clear and consistent conversation with your management and your reports about what the state of your risk is and what your priorities are. It sounds kind of simple, but it's not. There's a lot of work behind the scenes. But hey, if you do those three things, you're going to be in the top 5 or 10%.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we saw a survey just recently, some results that showed that the C-suite and the boards aren't necessarily as involved with the CISO as they probably should be. Maybe doing more lip service than they really should be. So if you're a business where you actually have that integration with the C-suites all in agreement on what you should do in terms of a breach or a ransomware attack, great on you. But many organizations I still think are struggling around that. But certainly maybe we can get that effort going as well.
Yeah, my memorable conversation of the week was talking to a CISO who said, he goes, the first part of the meeting is with the CFO, and he says, you've got to cut 5%. And then the rest of the board comes in and it's, we'll give you whatever you want. So which is it? There's two messages there. One is you have to be fiscally responsible. Two is that, hey, it's not going to be our fault when it happens. You're expected to take care of it. So it's
a lot of CYA lot of CYA happening these days, I'm sure. But again, I think, like you said, visibility. The first and foremost, we talked about external attack surface. If you can't discover your entire external attack surface, you're going to be struggling out there. So figure out the tools that can help you discover both your external and internal attack surfaces. And and again, as we said, the attack surface is huge these days. So you got to have tools that can look at accounts, at devices, IoT devices, PC servers, all of those types of things. But then once you have that discovery done, now you have to assess it. You have to use AI and some of the capabilities that it's bringing us now to actually build a risk score across all of those different attack surfaces. Once you have that, and also it's set up to give you high, medium, low severity ratings of those risks, then you can actually put in a plan to mitigate that and actually minimize your risk, because now you've got that. And that's where this ASRM platform's coming into space. And I think why a lot of businesses are starting to shift towards it, because it does give you all three of those capabilities in a single package that helps you with that visibility and actually gives you that recommendations. And you actually can now run your business through data and data analysis that we haven't had in the past.
Right. And with this sort of look at the world too, you have to really change how you look at things. So, patch management, for example, if I do my patch management, I get two things. One is that I reduce my attack surface, but on the second side, I know what's patched and what's not, and I have some information there. So that's the attack surface side and the visibility of it, and also the management of it. So when you have those things going together, the visibility and you reduce the attack surface, life only gets better.
Yep. Exactly. Well, Greg, it's been a great conversation today on episode 35 of Trend Talks BizSec. We're going to be back in a couple of weeks to talk about another topic. Certainly give us a like and give us a comment on what you'd like us to chat about in the future. We'd love to hear from you, the audience out there. Greg, any last parting thoughts?
I think it was great. We managed to talk about ransomware and talked about mostly new things. So good on us.
Excellent. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy out there, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, John. Thanks all.